So yes, for those people I haven't met before, hello. My name is Sarah. I do answer to most things polite because I'm appalling at remembering other people's names as well. So if you meet me in person, I've forgotten your name, please know it's not personal. So I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, MVP, a huge fan of Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Viva. But if you want to know any more about my background, please do look me up on social media. The advantage of that name is it's quite unique, so you can find me quite easily. And I'm going to be talking about how we can take advantage of the opportunities presented by the metaverse and all of those tools as we move forward and use those to enhance education, learning, training generally. So I'm going to be looking at some techniques and ideas as to what we can deploy in our learning environments or to give us new learning environments. So I'm going to just set the scene a little bit about how we learn, why I think the metaverse fits into education and learning, what we can do today, and where can we go? What's the promise of this technology and where can it take us? I would ask during the session if you have questions to please put them in the chat so that I can pick up on those as we go through. I'll monitor the chat as we go along so that I can answer them if they're appropriate at the time that they come up, or otherwise take them all at the end. I will be sharing these slide decks with the links to the resources and the case studies that I found as well after the session. So do look out for that as well. Okay, so it's important to always consider how we learn. If we're going to bring tools, techniques, and flexibility, if you like, into our learning environments, we need to know why we're doing it. It's no good bringing something in for the sake of it. It's got to have a reason, it's got to have a purpose. And in education and training, that purpose is to facilitate learning, to help people learn. So we've got to understand how they learn. And some of the key things that are consistent regardless of what topic you are bringing to people is repetition. Repetition of information helps people remember it. We all have fond or perhaps traumatic memories of being drilled in at least the times tables as we were learning in our early education. And it gets boring. So we want repetition, but we want repetition in a way that keeps interest. So that's where the concept of these different modalities comes in. The different ways in which we can introduce the same content. Yeah, we can read about it. We can view it in a video. We can use the tools and techniques of the metaverse. But that varying modality helps with the repetition. It also helps with people who learn differently. We are not cookie cutters. We all learn differently. We're all individuals. And by bringing repetition with different modes, different mediums, different scenarios, we reach more of our learners. We also learn by discovering things. The number of times people say to me, I learn best by getting my hands into the thing and trying it out. As children, we can be told something is hot, but we don't understand the concept of hot until we experience, until we discover it for ourselves, hopefully without the traumatic effects, without the burn. Yeah, so we're trying to encourage that discovery in a safe, secure space. And practice. There's no alternative really to getting your own experience, to doing something over and over again. We learn to walk by trying it out, falling on our hopefully padded backsides as we learn to walk, but getting up and trying it again. Right from the early stages of our lives, right the way through, these core principles hold true in how we learn anything new. Now, you might think I forgot to update the text on this slide because it says exactly the same things, but no, that's deliberate. The metaverse fits into this space because it offers us opportunities in all of these areas. Okay, it allows us to enrich the environment that we have, bringing virtual reality and augmented reality into our learning courses, into our curricula, brings, if you'll pardon the pun, a different dimension. It brings that added interest and it keeps it fresh for our learners and for us, because let's be honest, if we're saying the same thing year in, year out, course in, course out, again and again and again, we get bored and our delivery shows it gets flat. So the added dimension, I'm sorry about the bad pun, but it is true, this added tool set, these additional options bring that variation, so we can add another string of repetition. We've got all sorts of different modalities that we can bring in by introducing a virtual reality or an augmented reality scenario into how how users can practice and experience and discover the content. But there's more. We all know that Teams and virtual meetings like the one we're in today have opened doors for a lot of people who struggled to access services and scenarios before the advent of these environments. People who have mobility issues often find attending classroom-based and traditional learning courses a challenge. We've got the fact that if we're in a traditional classroom, we don't walk around with subtitles underneath us as we're delivering. And in an environment such as the one we're using today, if you would like to use the subtitles, you can switch them on. So we're advancing our inclusivity. And that's gone further with the metaverse, because even if we just take the avatars in Microsoft Teams and other platforms, then we've got the ability to present ourselves how we're comfortable with, especially if we're dealing with teenagers or anyone who has any kind of issue with their own appearance or doesn't want to present themselves in the way they actually look. That can be a real barrier to learning. So the use of those virtual reality personas break down that barrier and extend the inclusivity. If we think about mobility issues, then we've also got advantages here with the virtual reality worlds and the augmented reality worlds to open up spaces for people that would not be accessible otherwise. I agree, it's not quite as good as if they could experience it in real life, but if we can open the doors in some way, then we're increasing our inclusivity. And motivation is a key factor as we learn. If we're not engaged, if we don't want to be there, we're not going to learn. And one of the biggest challenges we have with learners once they reach teenage years or in business where we're undertaking mandatory learning is to be honest, we're just not interested. We just don't want to be there. But if we're going to have our biology lesson under the sea, there's something a little bit different about that. We might encourage people in. We're encouraging different kind of thought processes. We're again breaking down barriers to learning by using the environment to bring a little bit of novelty, something different, something maybe appropriate to the topic we're learning as well, and using that to help encourage learning. And we have opportunities that we would never have had before. We can visit the space station. We can take a walk around a brain and look at follow the pathways and understand concepts in a way, or present concepts in a way we would never have had the opportunity to do so without. I appreciate that some of these ideas need developers. But if we don't ask for what we need to encourage this learning environment, we're not going to get those learning environments to use with our learners. So those are our opportunities. So what can we actually do today? It's all great having these wonderful ideas, Sarah, but does any of it actually work in reality? Well, what I've done and what I want to present to you today is I've gone round and I've looked for examples of where these ideas are being put into practice, where they're not just Sarah thinking, what could we possibly do? So I want to give you some case studies and some examples. And I've picked 4 main topic areas, if you like, to look at in these scenarios and case studies. Learning spaces, looking at self-directed or guided self-study, looking at on-the-job training, so we don't lose a lot of start time to get people up and running. They can learn as they do and be guided through the job, and also simulations for scenarios where doing something in practice might not be the best way of learning. So what I've got here is an example from a Japanese school, and the school was experiencing very high levels of absenteeism, partly due to distance, partly due to the impact of COVID, but they were finding that they were getting very few students actually attending continuously. And we all are aware that continuous education is really vital. You can't layer knowledge on in stages if people miss huge chunks. Yeah, it's like learning to run before you can walk. It doesn't actually work. Okay. So what they did is they built this virtual classroom and students can attend through the virtual classroom in this metaverse world. They have to go through an induction process, which includes approval to join in that environment. I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head what platform the Japanese classroom is, that I'm showing you is in, but it was in the article that I've linked to. So you can get that from the link on the slide here, which I'll share for you as well. Let me just grab that link as well. Okay. Here we go. Oh, I can't copy and paste. Wrong keyboard shortcut. Doesn't work well if you don't use Control C. You know, we've got to learn to use this technology as well. If we don't learn to use the technology, then we're not going to be able to use it to help our learners. Copy and paste is probably quite a basic one though. So I really like that idea by virtue of the fact that it's breaking down some of those barriers. And if we bring it a little bit closer to home, UA 92 is in Manchester, University Academy 92. It's actually a venue that is a collaboration between some of the Manchester football legends, Microsoft, and also university in the area. And it's actually where a Scottish Summit was held this year. Very strange option for a Scottish Summit to be in Manchester, but that was really nice as well. And what they've done is they have built a virtual reality world where students can explore the learning materials that are available to them. Very much like an old LMS. But by being able to walk in and walk around and experience it, it's not a dry experience. You know, you can join through your web browser and navigate with your mouse, or you can actually join on a headset and walk around and walk up to virtual reality representations of your lecturers and ask them questions. The question will be transcribed and notified to the lecturer if they're not online at the time. You can view videos of lectures. If lectures are being live streamed, you can join them directly. Yeah. And you've got various different materials that you can learn from as well. So that's aimed much more at an asynchronous approach, whereas the classroom we were looking at before is much more of an immediate experience. So we've got that idea of extending the real world and replicating the real world in the virtual. So we walk into the building, we walk to the appropriate department and access the rooms there to find the appropriate learning that we're after. So the virtual experience mirrors the real experience, or vice versa, depending on which one you get to use first. And then we've got the simulation. Okay. And where we can try things out. And this is most common currently in the medical space. And the lead organisation that I found, or the one that seemed to be getting the most positive feedback in the online searches I was doing, was a company called 8Chili based in California, who are using virtual reality to get people to learn to test out techniques such as resuscitation. And we all know we've got these physical dolls that we can use to practice resuscitation on. And those have some great technology built into them now that can sense pressure, give appropriate feedback. And we've now got that same experience, but in a virtual world. So we don't need to get to the environment where we've got one of those really high tech and very expensive, to be fair, dolls available to test on. And various other techniques like inserting needles. I don't want my doctor to practice on me for the very, very first time. Thank you very much. I'd much rather they practiced on something that doesn't feel pain. So again, another really obvious scenario. Let's try things out that a little bit dangerous or perhaps even unethical to learn in reality. And let's take that away and put that into that virtual space so that we can use a safe, secure way of learning. And then we've got on-the-job training. Okay. We've got the ability to take overlays, augmented reality, to instruct people in techniques they're not familiar with. So if I'm repairing a car I've never seen before, I can bring up the guidance, which includes video, picture, and written instruction, and I can overlay that onto what I'm seeing in reality to work out where to put the cables. So that way I don't need to know everything before I can get out in the field. I need my basic skills, my basic knowledge, but I don't need to understand every product in market. Another example might be photocopiers. A number of times I've seen photocopier engineers, they're leafing through their bag to find the repair manual for that particular model, or now obviously on a tablet, bringing up the instructions for that particular model because I've not seen that particular model before, and the electronic board is wired slightly differently. So there's another really good opportunity to enhance the skills without needing to increase the training burden on our staff, and freeing up their memory to concentrate on the techniques as well. So the challenge with this is obviously not only producing the guidance, but also overlaying that into some form of virtual reality headset. In this case, the article is from a Microsoft blog, so it's using the HoloLens. So it's about building the technology, the environment, and the software program in that space to put the information in front of the user. Now, this is from the automotive conference that took place at the very beginning of this year. And so it's, it's in the wild today. It's been used. I couldn't find anything public that I can quote, but I know Daimler are using this technology to help their technicians actually build and wire up their new vehicles as they're moving into the electric car space as well. Okay, so all of their process guides are built into a HoloLens that the users follow through the guide, and they're static images, most of it, quite where we want to be, but a static image showing them where to go, and then as they look down, they kind of move. You can see them as they're doing it, moving their heads to kind of position the picture exactly over what they're looking at, and then they're holding their heads really, really still and moving their hands so that the image is in exactly the right place as they position the cables. And then once they've got used to it, once they've done it a few times, they go, yeah, and look down, chunk, and you don't see that same kind of motion in their bodies as they use the knowledge that they've gained. This next one might surprise you. Sarah, we've had Minecraft for ages. What on earth are you talking about? We can use, there are Minecraft worlds and pre-configured ones in the Minecraft education space. Okay, it's not photorealistic reality, but go and explore the space station. You know, there's models of the heart that we can use to learn with as well. We can explore the periodic table of the elements by walking up to it and interacting with it. Yes, okay, it's my little Minecraft person. And this is something as a tool, as a bit of software that my son, who's now off at university, has used since he was 5 or 6. It's been around for a long time. It's something that our modern generation, our new learners, are very, very familiar with because they've grown up with it. It feels normal to them, this kind of block space to interact with and working with is just normal for them, and they feel that feels almost as real to them as the real world. I personally really still want to have a go at the environment that Microsoft used when they first introduced us to HoloLens. When one of the very first videos where they were playing Minecraft with HoloLenses and digging with their pickaxes into the floor of the living room and finding that cavern under their living room. I'm still want to have a go at that. The first time I actually get hold of a virtual reality headset that I can do what I want with, that's what I'm going to be doing. That's my first task. No practical use. I just really want to experience it. Yeah, it probably was 2020. Really, really, really early on in the introduction of this technology from a Microsoft perspective, at least. So what can we do today? Well, I can use my avatar. Okay, let's turn my avatar on. Let's be my avatar. Okay, turn my camera off and actually be my avatar. Come on, teams, you can do it. There we go. Nice to see you all. I used this avatar at Ignite last year, and ever since people say it's not me if I don't have the silly hat and the brightly coloured t-shirt on. So obviously this is just Sarah as an avatar. But we can use these avatars today to give people that comfort factor, that break factor. I always encourage my users, if they don't want to be on camera, to use the avatar if they have it available, because I really want some form of visual representation. And I really like it when they can do, at the very least, some kind of reaction. You know, they can tell me they're confused. They can tell me that they've got a concept with their reactions, even if they're not willing to come off mute and interact here in on camera. The immersive spaces in Teams are coming, and there are other tools available that we can use those in already. And that's going to give us this audio where we can walk up to people and have a side conversation. What we're missing in this meeting for this style of learning is really the ability for you to be having that side conversation with the person sat next to you. So we need to be able, well, we can today use that technology. I am privileged enough to have taken part in early demos of this technology working inside Teams meetings, and I'm really looking forward to it coming into public preview, which I believe Jeff Teeper was saying in the keynote this morning is later this month. So hopefully, if I read him rightly as I was making my coffee first thing, that we should hopefully be starting to see some previews of that before too long. We've got SharePoint Spaces, and I've included a link from one of the organisers here, from Vesky, showing us how to do SharePoint Spaces. They've been around for a long time, but that concept of a moving space that we can explore and experience, not just flat links on a page. It's not ideal, but it's better than just the ordinary flat links. Yeah, don't forget about SharePoint Spaces. You want a nice, easy introduction to the concepts that we're going to be bringing into these virtual reality worlds for our users as we train them. Then that is a really nice, gentle introduction, because it sits inside a technology that they already know in a lot of cases. It's not really a revolution, though, is it? We're not suddenly becoming owls with 360-degree rotations from our heads. We can't suddenly look all around us. It's more an evolution. We're more moving back to, well, not back, we're moving forward, but we're more moving to introduce other features into our learning and training experiences. We're adding another jigsaw puzzle piece into the environment, where we've got the flexibility and variety of learning resources. And hopefully I've highlighted for you today those ideas and techniques and processes that we can move forward with. So where will the future take us? Well, where do you want it to take you? Some of these ideas that we've presented have hopefully triggered all sorts of other thoughts in your head, places that you want to take your learners, ways in which you want to introduce concepts to your training and development. And there's varying realities of this quote. I really like this one. The imagination is the only key to the future. Without it, no future exists. Without it, none exists. With it, all things are possible. And if you've not heard of Ida Tarbell, she is one of the early pioneers of the oil industry. And I think we can learn from her that the metaverse will go where we want to take it. Our imaginations are the only limitations. So where is your imagination going to take your learners? Any questions? Any suggestions? Just looking back through the chat, and I'm not seeing lots of questions, lots of links for and commentary on the introduction of mesh and HoloLens and when that was about. Chirag shared a nice presentation, which I did really enjoy as well, on the metaverse. So that's a really good one to have a look at to get some ideas as well. But I think we come back to the concept of using the technology that is available to you and blending it into everything else you're already doing. So we've got a question: how easy is it to build these learning environments for in-house training? I'm not a developer. I personally, if I was building one of these environments, I would go with one of the pre-built environments, and I would just use that and customize that space with my information and do this presentation in a virtual environment and allow people to walk around and interact as they need to, and then come up to the screen. Maybe we've got a whiteboard on the side that you can put your ideas on as well, rather than me just asking you. So that for me is kind of like the first step. And that's going to be very easy to build because I'm using a pre-built environment. I would need somebody who has development experience to introduce and answer the question as to exactly how easy it is to build from scratch. But I would guess, as Alexandra said there, that it depends. How long is a piece of string? Full of all of the snippets today, aren't I? Okay, so go to your virtual whiteboard, make your notes to your ideas as to how you want to use these thoughts that we've had. How are you going to adapt those into your learning and training? Where do you want to go after that? And the world is your oyster. Sharon, did you get any other questions? Have I missed any before we close?
Pretty much addressed them all. I was just going to put in the spatial link, but I can't find it. So that people can come and join us actually in the environment in a browser, which is pretty special.
I will go and look for that. In the meantime,
I think it's this one.
I think I Unfortunately early, sorry for that, but you've got time to catch the end of some of the other great sessions that are running on as well. So
perfect. Do come and join us in the spatial environment. You can come and see what's going on in room 1, which looks like they're on a holding screen too, so they finished early too. And please do rate the sessions. It's really important to know what you found useful, what you felt Sarah could have added to the presentation. That's really great for the speakers to know, and it's also really important for the event organisers to understand what you want to hear more of. And I could listen to Sarah all day, but we need to move on to the next session. So please do, we'll leave this up there for a little minute. I think, Sarah, you're taking over the moderation again. So
I am.
Back to your avatar.
Yep.
So do give us some feedback. Let us know what you thought. Let us know what you like and maybe what you didn't like. That's equally as good feedback for us. And we'll see you in the next session. We'll put the holding slide up soon.
Thank you all very much.